Wait, has it? Jamaica, Bahamas. Back to
Yeah, it's
back
all
to Somalia.
versatile.
They know what
In the
people like.
Caribbean.
Yeah,
And welcome to Blockbuster Bums. Kick back your recliner, crack open a beer, and let's talk movies. And today we'll be talking about Thunderball, the fourth installment of the James Bond movies, and personally, my favorite. So, Justin, would you like to give us a little summary?
All right, in this one, 007 is heading to the Bahamas to recover two nuclear warheads stolen by Spectre and their agent Emilio Largo in an international extortion scheme. What that scheme is, who knows?
All right, well, as usual, I'm going to go to Barry and say, Barry, with your first time watching this movie, what'd you think?
Yeah, I thought Thunderball was a lot of fun. Thunderball, I'm not saying this to be the case, but it seemed like it would have been maybe one of like the first big blockbuster sorts of movies, like summertime fun. I don't know when it came out necessarily, but that's how it strikes me as a movie. It's a really fun movie.
Yep. Tom, your rewatch, how did it go?
I loved it, and kind of like what Barry was saying, I too kind of like as I was watching, I was like, this has to be a big blockbuster type film. I didn't think about the season and all that, but just because of like the work that would have to be put into some of the fight scenes and battle scenes that we're gonna see and all that in it, like to where it's like, what is the manpower and the cinematography that had to be done to get all those underwater shots?
Yeah,
And
and they all the underwater stuff is actually done underwater. Like, it's not actually done in the ocean all the time, obviously, but
yeah,
like there's so much of this movie underwater, and they were doing water stuff.
and that's what I think I really liked about it. Or and just like it's basically Aquabond is what it is.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's and I think that's what I like about it. Like it is a lot of fun to watch.
hmm Justin, rewatch, how'd it go?
Oh, I loved it. My only gripe is what Barry's gripe about the last movie was the music, the opening part, which was it was Tom Jones, and it was really the wording of it. He strikes like Thunderball. What does that even mean? I don't know.
No,
What is a
it's
Thunderball?
unclear.
I know what a thunderball is. Do you want to know?
I mean, I think it's drugs.
No.
I was thinking the drug reference
In
too.
my,
That's what I thought it
in my
was.
neighborhood, it is.
Thunderball is what the military calls a mushroom cloud.
That
Oh.
makes sense then.
So now that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
So I still don't like the song.
And the song is ultimately though about James Bond, right? That's how I take it. Is he's
Well, now
describing
it's
Bond.
if you're saying he strikes like a thunderball, he strikes like a mushroom cloud, but
Like a
a
nuclear-
mushroom
like a
cloud.
A
nuclear
mushroom cloud
bomb,
comes from a
like-
nuclear bomb, so
Yeah,
I
Yeah,
mean,
he
so
strikes like a
nuke.
nuclear bomb. So that okay,
or
that makes
atomic
sense
bomb, I
now,
guess. Yeah.
But I didn't know what it meant from the beginning as a kid and up until right now.
Oh yeah, I didn't know what
So
Thunder. I
didn't
just
know.
thought it was something that sounded.
But I still
cool.
don't like the.
Yeah.
I still didn't like that song, and maybe it's because I'm not a Tom Jones fan.
Right.
Other than it's not unusual, it's kind of catchy, but
Be loved
Yeah.
by anyone.
yeah,
Fair.
it's catchy. But other than that, the movie itself, I mean, it's one of my favorites. It's got one of my favorite all time Bond girls and Domino. But you know,
Fair enough. Ray, how'd your rewatch go?
I mean, I enjoyed it. There were some like good gadgets in there, I would guess. Nothing over the top, I don't think. Let's see. Trying to think what all went down. But for the most part, I liked it. I mean, it's nothing. I don't think it's probably as good as Doctor No or the last one, Goldfinger. But I mean, it's a good movie. I enjoyed it.
yeah.
It's a great movie. I loved it. It and it really, really strikes me of just how ridiculously ahead of its time it was. What they were able to do, the things that we see that are still done. Like even this, I think I was talking. Maybe it was Justin. I don't know. I said this like the underwater like I don't know what you want to call them, the things that like they kind of like it pulls them behind them and they like zoom through the water with. They used that in the last Black Panther movie. So the exact same contraption. You know, I mean, obviously different model. It doesn't look identical to it, but it's just a thing that pulls them behind. Like,
Yeah, mechanics are all the same.
yeah, it all works the same. Like this movie was made in 1966. Like, and we're still using stuff from it in 2023. This movie was way ahead of its time, and I think it's great. But that being said, I do have a, last time I kind of talked about the movies, all the movies' budgets, and I said the Dr. No had $1 million budget, From Russia with Love had a $2 million budget, Goldfinger had a $3 million budget, Thunderball had a $9 million budget. They need a lot of money to pull off this underwater stuff,
And I believe it. Like, that's
and
$9 million get you in the 60s. Like,
it got them the biggest grossing movie of all time.
Yeah.
Underwater war.
Yeah, yeah. And if you account for inflation, this is the biggest grossing Bond movie of all time. I mean, like 1.3 billion. So yes, gigantic.
Doesn't shock me.
It's
Yeah.
humongous.
And then they made it with $9 million, not $300 million like Daniel Craig's. So, yeah, interesting. But that being said, do we just want to talk about the beginning of the movie?
Sure.
we have to start from the big. Yeah, it's from the first fight scene and all that to like the jetpack to like seeing the Aston Martin again. Like, yeah,
By the way, this movie, the beginning, like we look down the gun barrel and the shot and the blood.
hmm
That's actually Connery this time for the first time.
Yeah, and I
Oh.
did notice that because I actually paid attention to his face, and I was like, "That is actually Connery." Yep.
Yep. It's the first time that they let Connery actually do it. It's
I wonder
his
if he
fourth Bond
actually
movie,
said
but
something, it was like, "Hey, this time you need to let me do it."
which makes sense if the actor wants to do it. Why not let him? I mean,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be Bond, so why not let it be Bond?
Yeah.
Yeah. In his fourth
It
movie.
makes sense.
Yeah. So this is also what the third movie where they kind of play with you that James Bond's dead.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Very brief in this.
I mean,
one.
Yeah.
it says JB, but it was a different name.
Mhm.
It was
Yeah.
It was a
But I mean,
Yeah.
you pan into a casket that says
That says
JB,
JB,
and you're like,
and then-
what?
Yeah, you just
Yeah, and she
allude to
says,
it.
"Hey, he has the same initials as you," and then he finally says the name of it. I forgot the name, but it was some French name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't recall the name either. Yeah, they very briefly do that, which, I mean, if you're going to do that, I think it was smart to do it very briefly so that you're not
Well, they show him rather
questioning the
quickly.
audience's
Yeah, afterwards.
intelligence, you know.
Like, wait,
Um,
what?
Yeah.
And then you shoot him. Like, oh, okay, he's not dead.
It's a fun scene in that, of course there's a lady there in mourning and so forth, and then you see Bond eyeballing her as she leaves, and he notices, I guess, something that she does or doesn't do, so he decides, like, well, I better go back to this terrorist's house who's supposedly dead and see what's going on. And then he has the fight scene, which Tom mentioned.
And I love the fight scene because one, how heavy was furniture back then? Like
Oh,
when
yeah.
they're sliding the chair, just knocks them on down and everything. And the only thing that really like when you see him strike Bond with the iron poker and everything like that, like that's
Which would be
down.
brutal, by the way.
Yeah, you guys take like just a whack of iron to the back of the way he was swinging it and all, and even the one-liner when he tosses the flowers on him and all of that. Just they're ready to kick down the door to get you and everything. You take your time, just like because the dude
But-
was dressed as a chick the whole time, and whatnot. So it was a fun fight scene, way better than the first fight scene in the last movie. Like
By the way,
they made up for
You know
it.
what they
Yeah.
did with this fight scene? This fight scene, Connery and the other guy, I don't know who that is, actually did the fight scene in slow motion. Like everything they did was like this,
And they, yes.
and then they played it in the movie on fast forward.
You can kind of see the
I can believe
fast
that.
forwarding.
That explains the furniture in the chair and all that kind of stuff. Then
you
like
can see it kind of cut. It's like you can see it, and then it just
just zip, yeah, it just
Zip,
really
yeah.
moves fast. and all
Especially when like Connery does a couple moves where he jumps, and it's really obvious during those jumps because obviously you can't jump in slow motion.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, But
It's a fun fight scene, though.
it is.
You know, and Connery, I guess the attentiveness of the spy, that, you know, the thing that he noticed apparently was that this woman, who was actually the terrorist, opened his own door or something of that nature.
Yeah, so it's,
Well, the whole
Yeah.
time until they like the final shot, it was a woman.
Yeah.
Until they like the very final, until they just before they started fighting, it was an actual
that it's a
woman.
man.
Yeah.
Like,
So it was a really fun scene, and
But-
I know that people really like the flower scene, and Tom mentioned it. That's
Yeah.
really clever.
They even
and
sped
fun.
that part up too, because he did that in slow motion, and then they sped that part up. If you notice how they cut,
But then the escape was great too.
to the
Yeah.
jetpack.
Oh,
Yeah, then you're up on the
it's-
roof, and he gets in the jetpack.
I love the
every
shooting at
respectable
the
gentleman should
jetpack where
have
you're
that.
just like throwing the bullet out of the gun with it. Like,
Oh yeah.
I loved that and all. Like, that just cracked me up.
Well, I actually saw something about this today too. So you know how there's that long drawn out process where Connery's putting his helmet on, like
Yeah.
they're all shooting at him
Barry and
instead
I
of
talked
taking
about
off,
that.
he's putting his helmet on.
Yeah, safety first.
It's because when they originally did it, he wasn't going to have a helmet, but the stuntman refused to do it without a helmet. The stuntman's like, "I'm not flying without a helmet," and
Smart stunt man.
yeah, so
they had him on like cables or something.
But Connery didn't give a damn, apparently, though. Like, just,
Well, yeah, I mean that makes sense.
Yeah.
Even if you had a real jetpack, I mean,
I wanna
imagine
say
you
that
wouldn't
this
do it
wasn't
without
a
a
real
helmet.
jetpack.
on.
no, they said on the thing I listened to that it was a real jetpack, but I don't know.
well, there's your $9 million budget.
It was
Like,
covered in
yes.
foil. There's
Where'd
no
you
way
get a
that was real.
jetpack in the 1960s and all that? Like, just-
I
that thing
will-
looked like cardboard and aluminum.
I'll
Like,
buy that they used a real jetpack. What I won't buy is that the jetpack fit into the trunk of that Aston Martin.
You know what I
Yeah.
loved about the
Yes.
Aston Martin though is when the henchmen come running up, the water cannons only shoot straight back,
Yes.
and they
That's
stayed
where they
in.
all were.
They stayed in line of it rather than going to the left or right, like
Yeah.
just sidestepping and everything. Like, and then he made her move and all that.
They
Like,
only shot where that little shield was.
yeah, just. But once again, we get to see the gadgets come back and all that, I guess.
Yep.
But
The
no,
Aston Martin
I-
is back. It has its gadgets. You see a few new ones in this movie.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice. And then what? Bond goes to rehab?
I think he's like maybe he's just on like a holiday or he's just off work.
Well, it's not that because M says that he sent him there.
Oh.
He's required to be there.
Yeah, I think he's genuinely supposed to just be relaxing.
Yeah, I said rehab like he was in drug rehab or something. I meant kind of like physical rehab. Like he's supposed to be recovering from, I guess, his last mission and how stressful and
Yeah,
and
the
taxing it
the whole
was.
spa scene and all that.
Yeah.
It's a good stretch.
I mean, we go through. I mean, pretty much he's sneaking around the facility at different times, looking at different people. The grape scene kills me. Like he sticks his head back in the room he's sneaking into to take a grape and leave.
Yeah.
Then he gets put on the back stretching machine. And he gets dialed all the way to max, and like they're acting like it's gonna kill him or something. But it's the most awkward scene ever. Like it's like a horse rocking back and forth.
It rocked him so much it put him to sleep.
Yeah, I just passed out and everything somehow, and
Well, see, this is what I put for the back straightener part. When the guy turns up the back straightener and it got going so fast, I was like, they didn't do their homework because Bond has sex at least 3 women a night. So that's probably a normal night for him.
yeah, like,
Well, essentially they were
that's why he slept so
they were
well.
playing.
practical.
They were
Yeah.
pranking each other.
Yeah.
That whole back and forth between him and Lippy, they were pranking each other. Because
Yeah,
then he turns around and like puts them
locks them in the
and
steamer.
locks them in that
Like-
the sits back thing.
but
And neither one of them died or got
yeah,
hurt.
but here's the crazy thing is he's so messed up by the stretching machine. The woman lets him out, and he immediately has sex with her.
It's-
Like
and then after Lippy goes and kills someone after
Yeah.
he's done.
There were some strange things going on here, that led to these things, of course. Meeting the Spectre agent.
yeah,
And of course, the Spectre agent
You see the
has
tattoo,
a tattoo.
the mark. Yeah.
And Bond notices it, of course. These people also apparently wear rings, the Spectre folk.
which are very gaudy and stupid.
Yeah, yeah, not a great look and not very smart probably either. Um, then there's the dynamic between the lady working at the spa and Bond, where she very much presents as not interested in him, and not really in a fun playful way either, to where you're like, ah, I see where this is heading, you know, which I prefer that it would have been played that way because of how things ultimately end up going. Um, I think that this lady should have been asked to play this role a lot different than she did, because it made it kind of awful in the end.
Up until the very, yeah, I'll just say up till the very last moment and all, yeah,
Yeah.
wasn't very redeeming.
No, no. But the prankster stuff was fine with the Spectre agent. Immature and petty, because I think that was, the only thing it was about getting at each other.
Yeah, just
But, interesting. And of course, Bond, as he's sneaking around, finds out about the man whose face is covered, who is the fake pilot and so forth, to steal the nukes. So a lot did happen at the spa.
Yes, you get a lot of information as the
Yes.
watcher.
A lot.
Yes, very much so. Which leads us to like the final scene at the spa where the fake pilot and I don't know what she is.
She's a
Is
Spectre
Fiona an agent or she just work for Spectre?
I think she's an agent. I don't know that she has a number necessarily.
She might just be an assassin. No, well,
She had a ring.
she had a ring, so she
Oh
may.
yeah, well,
I don't know if she's an assassin.
anyway, her and another man are meeting with the fake pilot, and the fake pilot picks this time to try to blackmail
Very stupid.
Spectre.
Yeah.
which just terrible time.
Like the dumbest move in the history of bad guys.
Yeah.
He believes he's holding all the cards because, yes, he has the only face that they need right now, but.
Which really foreshadowed. You knew he wasn't going to make it as soon as
It's
he tried.
Spectre, because then they'll
Yeah,
tell you, sure, we'll give you what you
Right,
want.
exactly. That's the thing. If you wanted that stuff, you had to get it up front.
Yeah.
Because if you're just like, okay, we'll pay you extra afterwards, they're gonna kill you, bro. Like, what kind of
Exactly.
dummy are you?
Exactly what happened to her.
And the person who was asked about the extra money was this Fiona character, of course,
Mhm.
who, beautiful woman, by the way,
Yes.
and a great character, fun character in the movie. So she is basically having an affair with the real pilot, who then at that point is offed by the fake pilot. So this guy opens the door, sees his own face looking back at him, and then is murdered by himself ultimately, which is kind of a cool scene.
Trippy.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely a mine.
Yeah, and of course, one of the things, and it didn't occur to me until she said it, like, why is Fiona necessarily engaged in this? Is she was then able to relay like how this guy would act.
Yeah, because she's like, oh,
To the fake pilot.
he would say this, or
Yeah.
he would wear his hat
Mhm.
like this, or like,
Yeah.
yeah, there were little quips and quirks and
Which means
everything.
she
That's
spent
like,
enough time with him to learn all that about him.
Yeah.
yeah, so she'd probably been undercover,
Mhm.
in some way with him, like literally and figuratively and all that for a while. Like,
Yeah, which would be an important part of that. He'd have to be
Yeah.
able to reproduce how this guy would do things. So anyway, that was interesting. She was a cool character, and that's how the real pilot ended up getting killed, and the fake pilot then goes and takes over this NATO jet.
Which has 2 nukes on it, and they land it in water
Which was cool.
on an underwater runway,
Mhm.
and then they actually the plane actually goes down to the bottom of the, I don't know what it is, ocean, sea, strait, whatever they're
in
in.
the Bahamas, I think. They're in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
So,
And then they're unloading everything, and Largo goes down and kills him.
yeah, just
So
Really
this
just-
whole NATO mission, was that just some kind of an exercise, like a training exercise?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Why did they use real nukes?
because that's what the writers
Does
called
NATO
for.
do,
Like,
would NATO do that? Or would anyone take a training exercise?
North
using
Korea does.
real-
you can't judge a lot based off those people.
I want to say, and
I would hope not.
I think that if it doesn't happen now, I do believe that in the past, like, actual weaponry would be used in those missions like that. I do think that was the thing.
Wow.
Yeah, probably you have to learn how to
I mean,
hold
yeah,
hold
you
the
would.
hold
You
the
should know how to.
ammo.
But I feel like we could simulate the real thing without using the real thing
Yeah, you don't want to screw up. That's
because
for
of stuff like that. Because
Right.
something like that could happen.
Or just any type of mechanical malfunction.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there's just so many variables to where like it's not for a training exercise. It's not worth the risk. Like
That's what I think.
so that's
I
why
would
like in
think you
my
want, if you're training,
that's why in
yes,
my
you want
mind
to
I
train
don't
for the
see it
real
to where
thing,
yeah
but
it's
you really want to risk
like now
something like that getting
now like I
out
said
there in the
maybe
wild.
maybe if you really think you're going to use it, I guess we are talking still what the 60s
60s.
70s,
Yeah.
so yeah you're talking about like that Cold War era to where like maybe like there was something to get closer to like especially in the Bahamas with Cuba and everything
Yeah.
being so
Think
close like
if I'm Russia and I hear that, hey, there's a training exercise,
oh yeah they're
something possibly real that I can get a hold of. Uh,
Well, I
I'd
mean,
want
you
to get.
guys.
I'd want to at least not me personally, but I would let a lot of people know.
oh yeah
Well, yeah, that's true.
Well, you guys remember the John Travolta documentary Broken Arrow. But anyway, they do steal the nukes.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. I know a lot of people, what I gather, don't really enjoy the underwater scuba stuff. And I can appreciate that to some degree. I liked it largely. And I thought that this was particularly cool how they went about their business of, camouflaging the ship and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I thought
I did
Yeah,
like
they
that.
did do a good job with that. And then I think we jumped to Bond being summoned to headquarters, right?
Yep. And
Yes.
he's late.
Which is a super interesting scene. I want to get into some of this. He shows up, like Justin said, late. But he shows up.
Fashionably late.
Moneypenny says something. She says, all 00 agents in Europe are in there. Okay? So that leads me to a few things. First off, she said all 00 agents in Europe. So does that mean there are other 00 agents not in Europe?
That's what I thought.
Probably.
I would
Yeah.
take it that way with that phrasing.
Because in there's only 9, so I imagine there's more.
Yeah.
There is. There's 9. But in the books, it stops at 11.
Okay.
Now, whether there's more in the movies, I don't know. But in the books, it goes to 11. Who knows? Here's my next thing. Okay, so there's 9 chairs, like Justin mentioned. Bond sits in the 7th chair, 007. Makes sense to me. Here's the other interesting part. In the 3rd chair is a woman. So,
pay attention.
so 003 is a woman
Why not?
because it's 1966.
Progressive.
Like-
yeah, but I mean, let's be honest. Like the military isn't naive, and especially MI6. I can't imagine they'd be naive enough to like not use like a feminine touch on certain missions they need for it and all.
That's a fair
Like,
point.
I mean, yeah, it's one of those things, especially when like we're talking like right now we're talking about atomic weapons and everything. I don't think they're really concerned about sexism as long as the job gets done. It's like, hey, if you're an adequate field agent and all that, like, yeah, get in there and seduce a man and everything, get close and stuff.
I don't
Like,
saying if Goldfinger can use pussy galore.
yeah, that's
Right,
What,
I'm
that's
not.
what I
I'm not
mean.
doubting
Like,
what you're
all's
saying.
fair and all.
I'm
It's
not
like,
saying that MI6 or the CIA or
Yeah.
obviously Russia did it because we saw that in 2 movies ago.
Yeah.
But to use a woman to seduce men to get what they want, but we've done that since the beginning of time. We did that in the Romans did that back in the day. But that they didn't promote them to big places. They didn't promote them to 00. They didn't promote them to general. They didn't do any. You weren't part of the army. You just were sent in to do a job.
Maybe she's really good at what
Well,
she
the mere
does.
fact that she's a 00 agent suggests, it wasn't just suggest, it tells you that there's far more to her than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that may
yeah.
be part of it, of course, because James Bond even does that,
Mm-hmm.
but there would definitely she'd have to have far more skills than just, she's
Yeah,
good
she's
at that.
Jeff. Yeah, she's not there just. Yeah, it's not that easy just to get laid and here's the document. I got it. Like,
I'm not saying she couldn't do it. I'm saying I was surprised.
No, it is surprising, yes, I agree.
Like in like I said, the mid '60s, we were putting a woman in that position.
Yeah.
Like I was surprised they did it.
Maybe
good,
she
I
was
didn't
a
notice.
double ho and then got promoted to a double O.
Earn that title.
Hey, that's Tom's line, mister.
So
You know
anyway,
why I didn't notice, though?
what?
Because I was probably too busy looking at that damn room.
A gigantic
It was a
room, bro.
gigantic room.
Gigantic
They were in
room
these
with a
chairs.
huge map on the
The
wall,
chairs
and,
were so big and they were so small in the chairs. And
It's an awesome room.
and you watch all 9 00 agents open their field files. You know, like at the same time, like it was a really cool scene.
It was a very brief. It was very brief. Their whole meeting.
Yeah, and the actual briefing part of it was, you know, like especially when the tapestry went up and revealed the map or whatever. It's like you didn't even really need to do that.
Yeah, he's like, okay, well, you let him know, and then this is the
Yeah, somewhere around
the
there.
bomb has this kind of and that's it.
Yeah,
It's like, okay, well, why did you even need to be up there?
So I guess my question is, first off, how did 007 end up with the job? And second off, why did they have to call all 9 of them in if 007 was going to do it by himself?
They didn't know 007 was going to end up there. And a lot of times these movies confuse me, but this one I'm clear on.
Well, he was originally supposed to go to Canada. He chose to go somewhere else.
Yeah, he kind of talked his way
He was
into
like,
doing it
I
by
need to go to
himself. Didn't he?
Nassau.
He talked his
Remember?
way into it based on the fact that he had the file, of course, and then he saw the man whose face he had uncovered at the spa,
Yeah.
and he recognized his face. And then, of course, I mean, the added bonus is that he saw Domino with that guy.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you really think about it, M put that in motion by sending him there in the first place.
That's true.
Because M wanted him to go there in the beginning anyway.
Oh, to the
Yeah,
spa.
to the spa and all
yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Had him not sent him there, he would have gone to Canada and probably not even been a part of it.
And that scene, along with laying out why he went there, showed M's attitude toward Bond completely differently than Goldfinger. M was in front of other people saying, you know, yeah, Bond, I trust Bond. Bond, you're going to Nassau because you said that's what you need to do.
He's that way through this whole entire movie. He sticks up for Bond repeatedly. He tells other people off who try and badmouth Bond. I think this is more of like I can criticize him because he's my guy, but you guys got to shut the fuck up. Almost like it's your brother. I can punch my brother when he pisses me off, but if you punch my brother, we're having beef.
Right.
You know what I mean? Type situation. You know, like this was like, no, he's my agent. You shut the fuck up. Yeah.
And it did show, along with that, I totally agree with that. It did show a high level of trust because all Emma had to go on for not sending him to Canada, but instead sending him to Nassau was James Bond said so.
Yeah.
That's all he had to go on, really.
Yeah, and one of the high-ranking officials questions it, like, you're going to send him there on a hunch? And he's like, well, if Bond feels it's necessary, then we'll do it.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome.
Like, you know, and then later on they called Bond dramatic or something. Well, he's obviously dramatic and was wrong about this, and he's like, no, if he saw something, he saw something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and there's a third time, too, later, where they're like, well, apparently Bond failed or whatever, and he's like, no, Bond will get it done. Like, he sticks up for him at least 3 times to some of those other people.
Totally different than Goldfinger.
Yes. I think Goldfinger humbled Bond. Because I think afterwards he realized just how lucky he was to have gotten out of that alive. Like, he screwed up over and over and over again. In the end, he just had enough opportunities, he eventually came out on top. In this movie, I feel like he takes his mission much more seriously. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I feel that way. So, yeah. So Bond leaves and goes to the Bahamas.
Nassau.
Nassau.
Yeah.
Thanks to the 2 moles on the left of that.
But so he gets there, and he kind of has like a team. Like, it's the first time we've seen him. Like, he shows up with Paula is with him. Which he refers to her as his assistant, but it's obviously a beautiful woman that like has an adjoining hotel room with him, and she helps him set stuff up and does stuff for him. He also has that seems like a local that like knows what's going on.
Yeah, there's one guy, and I don't know if they ever give his name. He's a black guy,
Yeah,
and he doesn't say a lot in the movie, but he seems like a very serious man, and I thought he could have been a more fleshed out character, but I mean, he's there a bit and he does some stuff.
Yeah, he's like in their little hideout place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish there would have been a little more to him.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Felix shows up, as per usual. Felix, a third actor,
Yeah.
playing Felix. Rick Van Nutter is Felix in this movie. So I mean, he's got quite a bit of help while he's there at this point. Why they did that in this movie, I'm not 100% sure, because they don't really return to that. I mean, Felix is around off and on throughout all the Bond movies, but they don't really send him anywhere with a team after that I can remember after this.
Maybe just to drive home the seriousness of it still.
Well,
Yeah.
there's the whole stolen nukes thing.
Yeah.
See, I think in Goldfinger they didn't know about the whole nuke thing until the end. But now they started off with he stole nukes from NATO, so they're like everybody, all hands on deck.
Yeah,
deal.
during that time period in history, especially, then it's
Yeah.
like, oh shit, what happened here?
Mm-hmm.
Does he? I assume it's correct that soon after he makes that effort to be in contact with Domino, and he and Paula head out on the boat.
Yes.
And there's some.
Yeah, that's the
scuba
first
diving
thing he
involved.
does. Yeah, and he is so cocky and arrogant out on that boat. Like some of the comments he makes to Domino is like, "Whoa!" Like where she's like, something along the lines of like, "I'm not interested" or whatever, and he's like, "You soon will be." Like
Even if you go back
Give it time.
the talking to Moneypenny, and she asks, how will you see her, and he's like, how could I miss her? She has 2 moles in her left eye. And then when he first sees Domino, he kind of makes a comment, I knew I wouldn't miss.
Yes,
she's
going.
He kind of makes it.
boat.
I knew I couldn't miss it, and then
Yep.
and you kind of know that he means because he just saw the 2 moles on her
Yes.
thigh.
Yeah, that was a great scene.
And yeah,
That was a fun scene altogether. The underwater scuba diving stuff was fun. Him rescuing her out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, why are
Yeah.
you here, fella? But anyway, he rescues her, and then they fake, the boat not working so that he can then spend time with Domino. So
yeah, and like just leaves Paula on the broken down boat.
yeah. Paula's a good partner, though.
Yeah.
She does what she has to
She
do.
takes one for the
Yeah.
team when she has to.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah, absolutely.
So like, I don't think he ever really talks about it, but is Paula supposed to be like just like a regular MI6 agent or something? Like, she's just
like a liaison.
yeah, or just
something
like a point of contact of some sort. Like, yeah.
That's what I thought. Maybe her and the other guy are just their point of contact in Nassau,
Yeah,
or some kind of
that's-
maybe they're some kind of substation there that they work with.
Not a bad gig.
yeah.
Highgate Station. Yeah, it'd be a
Because
fun time.
remember in Dr. No, Strangways and they were some kind of a substation for MI6 there. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking maybe
That's
where
true.
Paula and
Yeah, and
the
that's
other
all
guy
the same
are for-
area. So yeah, like
Yeah.
like I said, stationed all around the world anyway. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Like you said.
And so then we end up. He's essentially at this point like almost like dating Domino. Like he just keeps going places she's at, running into her, talking to her, dancing with her.
She's
Like,
giving like the kind of a pushback, like she's not really interested, but kind of.
but then when they're dancing, she kind of talks about how essentially how scared she is of Largo, who is her. What does she refer to him as? Her guardian.
She says her
Yeah.
guardian, and she's like, because it sounds better than her lover or her whatever
Mistress.
her miss.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
And he even says that I think he claims her to be his niece.
Yes.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
that's what he tells
Appearances, yes.
people. Yeah, he
Yeah.
tells her to say.
So that dynamic is weird. Of course,
Weird,
with
yeah,
Bond, of course, basically, his interest in her is, of course, sexual and romantic to some degree, but it's also legitimate. Of course,
He's
with
using
the
her as an
mission.
end to
She
Largo.
is
Yes.
definitely necessary to the mission.
Yeah.
As the pilot's sister and this contact with Largo now.
Yeah.
Who of course you meet pretty shortly after, Domino's introduced. And of course there's that animosity between Bond and Largo immediately,
Which I love the back and forth between those two.
yeah.
Like that was just throughout the whole movie and everything in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like yeah,
They're constantly trying to show each other up, but more subtly.
yeah, like the shooting scene.
The shooting scene is
I love
legit,
that.
yes.
Where like it makes such a big deal and just first shot. Like no,
And he hip fires and
Yeah,
because he's like, this must be really hard. Boom. I guess not. Like, yeah, like
Yeah, I mean, first he's like, "Man, it looks like it's for a woman."
That is.
Yes, that was great.
yeah. No, the back and forth between Largo and Bond through the whole movie is really really good. I think the guy that plays Largo does a really good bad guy.
I think he does fine. I think that character could have been there could have been a little more to him, A lot of times he's just kind of there. But I mean, I don't hate it or anything. It could have been more iconic though. There could have been something more to him,
Mm-hmm.
I get what you mean. Like it's just a little more substance in some fashion and all that. Because yeah, like you said, other than the little one-liners and the stuff here and there, like it's not as much depth as you get in some of the other villains that we'll see, and like I guess we have seen all that. Like so.
And it could have been there because the actor was fine. And
No, yeah, that's what I
Good
say.
look
Like,
and-
so really, what it is it the writing? Is it the layout of the movie and all that? Where it really is Bond looking for like the atomic weapons and like trying to get in rather than like in Goldfinger, like to where he's trying to befriend him and all that. It's like, well, I'm really trying to get with Domino and everything so I can like find out what I need to know in some fashion. So. I did like the use of the sharks that he had all the time, though.
Yeah,
So
the shark
like,
pits is pretty cool.
I was gonna say I did enjoy all of that. Like, and once again, the swimming around in the tank and all that with them, and all really cool. The sneaking around, the actual spy work. Like that's what I liked about this one, to where it's like got to actually see Bond do a lot of that type of work at night and throughout the movie and all, like the recon.
I said last episode that I thought Goldfinger started to get us back to some spy work. And this movie goes full bore kind of back into the spy work. He does a lot of like sneaking around, even in the dark. He does it at Largo's compound. He even does it in the water.
Yeah.
Where he's really kind of being a spy. He's collecting information. He's trying to figure out what their plan is and all these things. He's not just kicking in the front door with a machine gun like an action star. He's sneaking around with his little, gun maybe and like hiding in the bushes and, kill a guy here and there. But mainly he's sneaking around trying to remain undetected.
He also had some aerial recon too.
Yep, helicopter
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Him and Felix in the helicopter.
Yeah.
Felix comes across like a total sidekick in that scene.
Oh, yeah.
He's a
That's-
complete
he's-
goof.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
Bond
Number
kind
two.
of like condescendingly credits him for helping to find the plate in it.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we
Yeah.
found it. Like, did he help you, Bond?
Yeah, it's right there. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And well, am I forgetting something before he goes to the compound?
I mean, I think there's a few things that happen. I think they continue to build up on that Domino Connery relationship, like with dating almost ultimately, I know at one point
Yeah.
it struck me, and maybe this is something that people eat cold, but Bond comments on how much he loves corn chowder as they're eating together. And I'm thinking to myself, you're in the Bahamas, like on the equator. You're eating chowder?
Oh, conch chowder.
Conch.
He tries
yeah.
to get her to eat it, and she talks about because it's an aphrodisiac.
Conch?
Yeah,
chowder.
conch.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought he said
Yeah.
corn chowder.
Yeah, and she kind of like shoots it
We're a
off. 'Cause
long
she's
way
like,
from
she's not
Massachusetts.
gonna-
Like, just like,
She's not gonna fall for it. She's like, I think you're mistaken. I'm not.
Okay. So
Yeah.
conch chowder makes sense as a meal you would have in the
Yeah.
Bahamas. Corn chowder did not.
yeah, like,
Okay,
where-
thank you.
Got a cornfield for miles.
Now that makes
Like,
sense.
it just, shit had to be imported. Like,
So, okay, well that makes sense now. But watching him kind of court her and her kind of being blatant about it. You know, she has to know that Largo's going to be aware of this. It's not going to be
Yeah,
something,
no,
you
she,
know what I mean?
yeah, you could tell. But I think that was part of her also being standoffish about it. She knew like what the consequences would be if she entertained this and all. Like it's so, and I think that's part of that back and forth in that play because really,
By then, had they already played cards?
Yes.
yeah,
The
but
card-
Because
yeah,
then at that point, then he would have already asked her,
yeah,
"What did Mr. Bond say to you?"
Yes.
yeah.
So then he already knows.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, he,
So
yeah.
because then at that point, she still thinks it's innocent because she's telling him what he's saying to her.
Well, and she was still oblivious because if you even think like to me, the big reveal in their relationship was when he actually revealed that her brother had died and that Largo
Yeah,
the
that
one
was
that killed, and
later on. Yeah.
that was the big turning point in the whole dynamic, their relationship and everything. Because then she warns that there's a henchman behind you or some nonsense like that he kills really
Which he was
quick. And
very, very misused.
yeah,
There could have been a lot
Vargas.
more to Vargas, because even Largo makes a big point to Vargas doesn't. He doesn't. What does he?
He doesn't
does-
drink.
He doesn't drink.
Smoke.
He doesn't smoke
Yeah.
or
Doesn't
make
sex.
love.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, then what does Vargas do?
Right.
Apparently, he's very terrible at torture because
Yeah.
because later on he does what he does.
He needs to just give in and have a smoke. It seems.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what
He sucks at everything else.
He
Yeah.
could have. Yeah, he was a very poorly used henchman in
Yeah.
this one.
yeah, very underused and everything to where, like you said, especially for like a decent villain and everything. Here's your number two, because yeah, even like who was he like Largo? What was he ranked like number two or
was number
three?
two.
Well, Largo's
He was
number
number
2.
two.
Yeah,
Yes.
so you think the number two man and everything would have like a pretty top notch henchman and all that, to where
Yeah.
it's like you got some straight laced dude that kind of fumbles the ball here. Like,
I think Largo is more hands-on than any of the other numbers, though. The other numbers send their henchmen to do stuff for him all the time.
definitely so.
Largo
yeah.
went out and did the shit himself.
Yeah, he's out scuba diving and all
Yeah.
that shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because who was
Oh
the,
yeah, he was
the
in the
guy
shit.
in From Russia with Love?
Red.
The henchman. He
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but the guy that
he was way more capable than Largo's henchman,
yes.
and he was
Mhm.
probably some lower henchman.
He was just like a soldier level.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was just a
Yeah,
soldier,
just-
and yeah, it's ridiculous. But
Like I said, just underutilized. Well, once they talk about not character development or no character development there and all that, like
Yeah, and I mean, I know they can't get everybody, but I mean, you're
No,
right. They
but-
did make a big deal of Vargas and all that, and then it was just left.
yeah. Once there were a couple of big anticlimactic deaths in this movie to where, and I know when you and I talked about it before and all that, we'll talk about like later toward the end of the movie and all that. Like yeah, it's. And that was one of the deaths too, and everything, to where it's like, there was no big fight, nothing, all that. It's just boom, you're gone. Like, so
Well,
it's-
Bond goes out to the complex or the compound or whatever you want to call it,
mhm.
and he's like having his back and forth with Largo and all that stuff. But while he's gone, they kidnap and torture Paula
Uh,
and kill her at the end. I mean,
yeah,
which was kind of one of
She killed
those.
herself.
well, she killed.
Yeah, she killed herself. Yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah, that's true.
Which
But
I-
they,
Vargas is terrible at making sure that she didn't do that.
Yeah, and I guess to comment on that, I'm glad you did mention that because the Paula death, I mean, I'm not saying I weeped over it, but she was a cool character. I liked
Yeah.
her, and it was kind of a bummer to see her go. Bond, very much, it just went by him. Later, Bond put the cyanide pill in his mouth, and it wasn't a scene that lasted long, but you could tell he was just kind of like gave it a moment of thought. I mean, that would be a big deal to put a cyanide pill in your mouth for later, just in case, And I thought that was a good scene to show him doing that. And then I got to mention these two things. One, the yacht was cool. The name Disco Volante is awesome. Means flying saucer in Italian.
Oh,
It's a cool
okay.
name.
Nice.
Alfa Romeo, I think they still do. They used to make a car called the Disco Volante, which I don't know. I just think that's a cool couple of words.
great name.
And
Great
the
branding
beach
name.
scene where Vargas was killed, it was a good scene in terms of the interaction between Bond and I can't think of her name.
Domino?
Domino, thank you. Bond and Domino. But she kept pressing him for more and more information about what was going on.
Yeah,
Why
what
were
are-
they worried? What was
what
going
are,
on?
What are you doing?
And Bond repeatedly said, I'm not going to tell you, basically. I can't tell you. I'm not going to tell you. But I'll be damned, he told her like a minute later.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
He made a
like-
big deal of it. And then, then he was telling her. It was just very strange to see that. Like,
Can't tell you,
yeah.
but there's nukes involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Spilled the beans.
So then Bond comes back from the compound, finds that Paula is gone. By the way, he initially seems upset about it. Then he does spy stuff and goes and finds out what has happened to her. He sneaks around, he fools some guards, very spyish. Sees it, he leaves, he looks upset. Next scene, he's in his room acting like nothing ever happened. Fiona shows up and he bangs her.
Yeah.
Like, well, got over that fast, didn't we?
Well,
Like-
not even that. It's he goes and Fiona's taking over Paula's room.
Yes, yes.
He's like she's like, oh, I didn't know we were roommates. He's like, oh yeah, I didn't know that they moved in. It's incredible. And yeah, and that's
Fiona
it.
looking very sexy in the tub.
She does.
Sitting in a very peculiar position.
Mhm.
I don't understand why she would be up against the back end facing the wall, but whatever.
Yeah, it was like,
Yeah.
you give me a towel while you're at it, and he,
Gives her a washcloth.
gives her a washcloth. Yeah, because he's completely forgotten about Paula. Rightly so. She looks amazing.
Yes.
Fiona is very, very pretty.
Yeah, if she was a Bond girl, she'd be ranked pretty high to me.
Yes. This movie is full of beautiful women, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Paula's hot, Fiona's hot, Domino's hot. The chick from the spas is very pretty.
Yeah.
There's a lot of very pretty women in this movie.
It's a good cast.
Yes. But then immediately after he sleeps with her, her henchmen come in to grab him. And then they have that little quick back and forth of like, well, I slept with you. Well, I slept with you. And, well, I did it for
Yeah.
King and Country, not,
That favorite line and everything. Like,
What I did was for King and Country.
yeah, you
don't
think I enjoyed it?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Like, come on,
It's-
Bond. You enjoyed it, buddy.
Yeah.
'Cause I know I would have.
Well, what was funny about that is that once he said that, she took really offense to it.
Oh,
Offended
yeah,
because
you-
she did.
just with
Because
the-
she enjoyed it.
The
Yeah.
her pride on her face, yeah,
Oh,
like that.
He
It
thought
was,
maybe she changed. She turned the great James
yeah,
Bond.
Well,
she thought she had done something.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I put it down as she thought that she had a Zales, but really only had a pawn shop.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand a lot of times Bond to some degree letting down his guard with the women. I understand that. This one I thought was a bit much. Like, you're just totally dismissing the fact that she's with Spectre. She
I guess
you
The
took
way-
no
Spotted the ring like 4
he
or
took
5
no
times.
precautions whatsoever with
Yeah.
this woman.
well, the woman wasn't the problem. It was the henchman that got him.
Well, right.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think the way he views this is the way I always viewed him viewing it, even growing up, was first off, she's a woman, so if it comes down to it, I'll overpower her. But second off, I keep her naked, so it's not like she's hiding things on her.
Yeah.
She's naked.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not worried about the woman, because he's done this to bad girls over and over again. In Dr. No, he bangs that one chick twice, and he knows she's bad.
No, yeah.
She
yeah.
just tried to have him killed.
Well, and even Fiona, they both knew. They both knew because he
Yes.
spotted a ring. She saw him spotting it. She turned it around in the car.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they already established that they both knew that
Yeah.
they were.
It was pretty much at that
Yes.
point. It was
And
just
they-
game on.
And then
Like,
she sped, and and they still banged each other.
yeah, it's
So they both
spy
accepted
game.
that we're enemies,
Yeah.
but we're gonna still do this thing.
yeah.
Yeah. So then they capture him, they take him to the compound again, right?
Yep.
And that's when they throw him in the shark pool.
Palmyra.
And I have something about the shark pool, okay? So, when they throw him in the shark pool, there is a plexiglass tunnel that runs through the middle of the shark pool. The shark pool is real. There's real live sharks in the pool with Sean Connery. That is not a stunt, man. That is Sean
Oh, yeah,
Connery.
you can tell that
it was
he's, but
CGI
when you
in
see
the
his
60s
hands
like
up,
that.
Yeah.
you can tell that
Yeah,
he's
like-
against something that's like a barrier.
So there is a plexiglass tunnel for him to swim through, and through that tunnel into the other pool. They've set it up that way. What they did not tell Sean Connery was they ran out of plexiglass. Okay, and there was a 4-foot section that had no plexiglass. Okay, there is a scene underwater where Sean Connery has a look of like absolute positive horror on his face.
Just a oh shit moment.
And it's because a shark got in the plexiglass tube with him.
Oh shit.
Yes. Like, and he like lost his mind on the director after he got out.
I probably would have
And-
fought him after that.
And like the director, but they kept the hole in the plexiglass a secret from him the whole time because they thought he wouldn't get in the water otherwise. And I'm like, duh, exactly.
Rightly so.
Like, you're lucky the star of your show didn't die right there.
Oh man, that would have been terrible.
Damn.
Speaking of the Sharks, and that is a bold move to not tell the man that, there are a couple of scenes, and I know that this would bother some people. It doesn't particularly bother me, where I believe they must have just shot these sharks. Were they
With
harpooned
him
them?
and Felix
Um,
in the helicopter? I think
maybe there
they
was
might
that
have,
was part
because
of
there
it.
was one
And
that
even-
was like straight up and down,
Yes.
and it
Yeah.
looked like there was
Yeah, there
blood
was
coming from
yeah.
his head. So I
so
think they might have actually.
yeah, so I have to
tagged
believe that, and I know that people had different mindset, 60 years ago, where that wasn't as big of a deal. But I think they legitimately killed a couple of sharks for this movie.
Mm.
Well, there wasn't a thing at the end
No, I
of
don't know.
at the end of the credits saying that no animals were.
Yeah.
Yeah, no
I don't
animals were
think
harmed
there
in the
was
making of
one
this
those
movie or
things at
whatever.
the end.
Yeah.
So there might have been some
Yeah, I
animals
believe
harmed in the
that.
making of it.
Yeah. So kind of interesting.
Yeah,
It's the 60s, it's a
definitely.
different time.
I guess you'd eat sharks. So I mean,
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
ate them.
I was gonna say, yeah, they didn't
Yeah,
probably,
I
probably
mean,
didn't go to
Japan, you got
waste.
shark fin soup
That's,
or
that was
whatever.
my first
Yeah.
thought and everything. I was like, well, I mean, they probably
Maybe
knew
they
what
were
it was if they
hunting.
did. Like,
At the time, I'm
I
sure
would assume they
nobody
were
would have thought
hunting.
a thing of it. Like,
Nah.
they killed a couple of sharks.
I don't know. Once again, 60s. Like, it's like, yeah, it's not worth making a prop. Like,
So then that's him hiding from them in the dark. Yeah, in the compound again, like him running around the compound with them trying to find him. And now I'm kind of drawing a blank of where it goes from there.
He somehow gets away again, and gets either they end up back at the.
No, he sneaks into their mission.
There's a
Yeah,
staircase.
he sneaks into their mission.
Yes.
Because he
Yep.
gets in that staircase.
Yeah, he doesn't get away. He follows them on their underwater mission.
Yeah.
Because he takes the last guy and knocks him out
yeah,
and puts on his suit and
yeah,
everything
That's what it
Yeah.
is.
and sneaks into their mission.
He just kind of just sweeps the leg and it knocks him out or
Yeah.
something. Something real simple. Like
Maybe he gave him a karate chop, dude. Come on.
There's a lot. Yeah, the karate chop makes it echoes throughout a lot of movies. Like,
Yeah, the guy whose suit he took, one of the other bad guys, one of the goons was like, 20 feet away. But, Bond was stealthy enough to get away with it. And while they're doing that scene, of course, I don't think there was anything too technical that had to be done. But Bond's very lucky that he was able to just keep up with what was going on. Because, I mean, it's not like he'd done this before.
Mhm.
you know?
blend in with the crowd, really.
And
Like,
the scene, the part of it where Largo realizes that it's Bond underwater is really
there's
well
no
done.
way he should have been able to know though.
Maybe not, but I mean they are fairly close, and when you see like just the head movement that he does, it's really well done.
yeah.
Because you can't use words, obviously.
No, once it turns into a silent film there
Yeah.
at that point, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I thought it was
Yeah.
good, but he got away with it for a long time, and then Largo.
Well, I guess
eventually-
even if he was able to notice that it was him being able to communicate to the rest of those idiots that
Just
hey,
like what, hand
you and you
movements and just,
go get that dude.
Yeah.
I don't think he should have been able to do that.
yeah, that did go. Pretty
Largo should
smoothly.
have just started to attack him, and then everybody else should have known. Okay, yeah,
Yeah, let's
we
just do what
probably
the boss
should
is
do the
doing
same
type
way
thing.
he's saying,
Like, yeah, like
But it's still, it was still good.
And then that led to, of course, the big fight.
Yeah,
Where
so
the guys
pretty much an
get dropped
underwater
dead.
war.
Water battle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that battle
Um,
was good though.
one
because,
shot
like,
harpoon
the-
gun
the-
at a
the-
time,
the- I guess Felix calls in the army,
I have to
And-
imagine.
and then like they're dropping out of helicopters
Mhm.
into the water and like going to war. I mean,
Yeah.
essentially, like a lot of them die. I mean, on both sides, like a
yeah.
ton of guys die on this. And then you see sharks again, who are like starting to pick up the dead bodies.
Yeah.
But that By the way, I love the music during that battle.
Well, I thought the
Well,
first
the
part of
music
it,
had to be
the
good.
first
Like,
part of it was silent, which I thought was
it was
kind of
it
weird.
was for a
Mhm.
bit.
I
Yeah.
thought I thought it was kind of odd that it was silent.
Yeah, I
Starting
don't think
off.
the music starts until the army
Until
guys
Bond,
show up.
no, until Bond gets in the water.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
Bond hits the water, which was cool, when Bond hits the water and that you see that yellow trail, then the music starts,
Yeah.
and then then everything starts really livening up. But yeah, that first when it starts off, it's silent. You don't even hear. Well, you do hear a little bit of
You hear
the
like just the
harpoons
water
and
rushing,
the
yeah,
water
when the,
and
like,
stuff.
but that's like the only sound you get. There is no like background noise, or it is almost like you're submerged in the water with what's
yeah, which
happening
was
and all
it's kind
that.
of cool for
Like,
effect, and this is
yeah,
what those
like,
guys are hearing anyway.
but yeah, I remember like watching it and thinking that to myself too. Like, there's no music. Like, it's,
All right, I pulled the scene up.
mhm.
There it is. That's
I
the
like
music.
that music.
Yeah.
That
That's
music, yes.
It's old fashioned orchestra music and all that. Like, yeah.
But yeah, but it's like some of the stuff like there's certain times during that battle where you're like, man, the Americans are losing.
Oh yeah, and there's way more of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was jumping in and swore. Yeah,
It
yeah.
would drop from planes.
But I guess once again, dramatic effect. You got to make it like it can't be an overwhelming battle. I guess.
But the
Like,
thing is, Largo's men they seem to have better weapons.
they did. They
there's
did. Yeah.
Spectre and everything. They did just steal 2 atomic weapons, and they have the
Yeah.
underwater base. They have an underwater like plane port and everything. So like they're not underfunded by any means, like financially. Like, so I
They-
mean, yeah, like everybody's got the same harpoon gun basically. Like,
And then like Largo tries to escape, and Bond follows him. At this point, Bond has in his like secret pen or whatever that turns into a breathing device, which Q assures him will last no longer than 2 minutes, and he's underwater for like 15, 20 minutes with that damn thing in.
I think
Yeah.
you
Like-
gave him 4 minutes.
Oh, was it
to be
4
fair.
minutes? Yeah. But yeah, it was he's underwater way too long with that damn thing in. But yeah, and then the big fight between it's like Largo and 2 guys against Bond. It's like like 3-on-1 or whatever. But yeah, Bond obviously
again-
eventually comes out on top.
But Bond doesn't kill Largo.
No.
It's
No.
Domino.
But that was the anticlimactic death that I was talking about earlier
Yeah.
with Barry and everything. To where I was like, man, all because once again, he's so hands on and everything, and yeah, it was an outnumbered fight there at the end and whatnot, but yeah, to where I don't know, I just wanted more between Bond and Largo.
Oh, they're on the yacht. We didn't say that. Largo makes it to his yacht, and Bond gets on the yacht as well.
Yeah,
And they end up fighting on the yacht. While the yacht, the driving the yacht shit is like, what the fuck is this? Like when they
Yeah.
show out front of the yacht while Bond's trying to keep it under control, it's like total like
Yeah, what they're showing and
Yeah.
what they're actually doing is sped up and completely.
it completely fast forward. It's
they
it's
pass
like
by the same
whoa.
rocks like 50 times.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy actually. And then like you said, Domino ends up shooting.
harpooning him.
Yeah,
It was an odd choice in that I like it that Domino gets revenge for her brother.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
And I'm fine with her, being the one to kill Largo and not James Bond. Basically, she rescued Bond.
She did. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, and maybe this sounds silly, the actual physical nature of how Largo died, I think could have been done in a better way. Because he just kind of slumps over,
He
and
slumps
all you see
over
is his back,
and happens
and
it's
it's,
locked in place
yeah, it's kind
in the
of
wheel.
non-dramatic, though, like the look of it.
That's what. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, the boat wrecks,
Yeah.
so they have to jump off the boat.
With nukes on board.
Yes. But
You gotta get
Again?
on the boat.
for what, the 3rd time, Bond ends up in a life raft with a chick.
But he made a stupidest choice ever.
To use a skyhook.
He got out of the raft. Why would you get out of that raft?
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
made no
I-
sense to me.
And I thought wasn't that a real program though, the whole Skyhook
Skyhook
thing?
program, yeah.
Yeah. That seems like a very, very dangerous and stupid program.
Oh,
I
yeah.
wouldn't
yeah.
want a plane yanking me out of this yanking
Yeah.
me into the sky.
But not only that, but they yank him out while he's just holding her in his arms.
Yeah, like if
There's
he
no
just
way.
happened
No
to
way you're holding on to
let
somebody
go,
like that.
She's dead.
Yeah.
And his spine is severed.
Yeah. No,
So they
not
both die.
my idea of fun.
I would still say he should have just stayed in that raft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what he does every other movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, my-
stay in the raft, bang the chick. That's what
Yes.
you always do.
Yeah, like,
Tried and true.
I couldn't
Stick
buy
with
into that.
it. Stick with what works.
Yes.
All right. Well, do we just wrap up the end of the movie?
I think so.
Domino's number one.
All right. So does it?
think
We want to
we
have
get
our
a lot of
closing
arguments.
statements here.
well, I was like, did we gloss over the meeting was at like Spectre's meeting?
We didn't even touch on it.
That's
It was a good
right.
scene.
Like, because I feel like
It
that.
was. It talked about Spectre. Yeah, Spectre.
Because I was like, yeah, that's where we
And we-
first see just like the hand of the old main
got-
dude and everything, and
you got number
it's like,
one
oh, like,
stroking his
hey,
cat.
it's like, hey, where's our drug money at? It seems here that the books are a little short and all that. Like, one of you two is lying and all, and just bah, like with a button.
Was it
They
number
killed.
9?
Like
Number 9 got killed.
number 9 got killed. Yeah.
Yeah. As I was gonna say, this is like our first time we actually get to see the whole council and like like I said, just the cat, I guess, of the main dude and
Mhm,
everything.
yeah.
But,
And there's also one of the scenes. The cat is frantically trying to get away from the actor, and the actor's trying to hold on to it. And it's kind of funny to watch.
Yeah. That was a scene worth bringing up.
yeah.
Iconic also in that it's one of those that's gets made fun of and lampooned and all that with
Oh,
the
yeah.
dropping of the guy through the floor and all that. But great scene.
It was a good scene. It's really the first time. Maybe
Other than like the shin kick of poison and all that, like you can see the brutality of it.
Oh
like,
yeah, but I was gonna say, do we ever see Spectre as a whole like that again? You guys remember seeing them as a group again? I mean, we see multiple people from Spectre together
at least
quite a
not-
few
not in-
times, but I
not
don't
in-
think we've ever seen them as a whole like that.
Not in the next few, as far as I remember now.
Yeah, I don't know. No, you're right though. We should have brought that up. I guess we did. Just kind of skip right over it.
I have a feeling there were a fair number of things that we kind of missed. Like we didn't really talk about Q much. The scene with Q. I'll just briefly say Bond seemed kind of oddly sourpuss during that scene.
Oh,
Like,
him and Q.
Yeah, like where are you kind of being a jerk, but and Desmond Llewellyn has giant weird hands. Next time you watch Q, they're peculiar.
So
Holtz is looking it up now.
no, I'm not looking at that. But
Ring size, like just
Like bratwurst fingers.
Q's
You know,
abnormally large hands.
yeah, check it out.
terrible dexterity for a mechanic. Like just like
So, Tom, you got any closing statements for us?
I know, like I said, it was a fun movie to watch. Definitely was Aquabond. And I think really it sets up for the next movie and a whole lot. That's the way I looked at it, to where like you see a lot of the reoccurring gadgets. You get really more deep into the spy stuff. You get to see, like I said, all of Spectre and like hints at really where the series and the franchise is going. And I think it really sets up the next movie very well.
Awesome. Barry?
Great fun, great cast. Was not a summer blockbuster, but it was a Christmas blockbuster. Yeah, I thought it was great fun and bigger, better Bond, basically.
Mm-hmm. Justin?
I definitely enjoyed it. It doesn't beat out my Goldfinger, but definitely, like I said, has my number one Bond girl of all time in it. So.
Yes.
I love the movie though. I still enjoy it. It's something I one of the Bond movies I can watch multiple times and still have fun watching it.
Yeah.
Ray?
I think I'm just gonna go over some couple points that instead of just doing a whole spiel. We might have forgot to talk about a henchman travels to Palmyra.
Yeah.
Then the breather device is mirrored in Star Wars Episode 1.
Yes.
Menace?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
You're right.
always later on. And then we just talked about the Skyhook thing. That's also referenced way down the line in Batman The Dark Knight.
It is.
So,
He uses Skyhook when he's in Japan.
yeah. So I'll just leave it at that. Pretty good movie, though.
Yeah. Last week I mentioned that there is a few movies that are elite and way better than all the rest of the Bond movies, and I said Goldfinger was one of them. Thunderball is also one of them. These movies are kind of in a class of their own, and like I mentioned earlier, this is like my all-time favorite Bond movie. So yeah, I think that's it. I think that'll wrap up our talking about Thunderball and move us into our rankings for the week. So as far as Bond girls go, Domino will need to be ranked. Right now, our rankings are Honey Rider, Tatiana, and Pussy Galore. So 1 through 4, Tom, where do you have Domino?
It's tough because you're making me choose between Domino and Honey Rider, basically.
Yep, I agree.
I'm gonna go with Honey. I enjoy a blonde.
Just.
All right, so you're saying Domino is 2.
Yes.
Barry?
It's a no-brainer. Domino's number 1.
Oh,
Okay. Justin?
I got Domino's number 1.
Ray?
I got to stick with Honey.
Me too. I'm going to put a Domino at number 2.
Democracy.
You two fuckers just lost.
It was
No brainer my ass.
It was close. I was wondering where Ray was gonna go.
Yeah.
Like,
I guess we'll put 1, 2. So where are we going to put Pussy G and Tatiana?
We already ranked them. They're 3 and 4.
Okay.
So, yep. So Domino is now our number 2 Bond girl. Honey Rider still holding that number 1 spot.
Right? Or is it the other way?
And now we will move on to, I think last week I switched it up. So this week we need to talk about our body count.
yeah.
Well, I assume he slept with the lady at the beginning of the film who ended up getting conked in the head, right?
Are we talking, what?
Am I thinking of a different movie? Am I thinking of Goldfinger? No, he goes.
He sleeps with the chick at the spa.
Yeah.
He sleeps with Fiona. And he sleeps with Domino.
So he's back to 3. So there's 2 in the last movie last week, and then back up to 3 in this one.
Maybe I'm thinking of a different.
I'm just trying to figure out what scene you're talking
Conked in the
about.
head, did he back-
Like in the beginning, it was the funeral.
Yeah, the beginning was the funeral.
No,
I mean,
I'm
I
thinking of a
assume he slept with
I'm
her
thinking
too.
of a different.
But,
I'm thinking of
yeah,
a different.
it was-
Of different. I'm thinking of Goldfinger, I believe. Sorry.
Okay. So we're at 3 again. So that puts us to what? 11?
Yeah, 11.
11 and 4 movies?
I mean, he's doing pretty good work. I have to give him that.
He's putting work in. That's
Yeah.
true. That is true. That's almost 3 a movie. So,
Or permission.
yeah, permission. Yeah.
He puts in the work.
So then it comes down to the final tally, which would be the movie itself. So right now the order is Goldfinger, Dr. No, From Russia with Love. So 1 through 4, where do you rank Thunderball, Tom? Tom acts like I asked him a surprise question.
I know. Well, I've already been thinking about it. I've been arguing like in my head because really, like it's. I mean, Doctor No still has a special place in my heart. No lie, like it really does. But I can admit that I do believe like Goldfinger is the more mature movie of those two. And I will say I did enjoy Goldfinger better than Thunderball. Like, I enjoyed the pace of it better. I enjoyed the action scenes, the characters. Like, I did enjoy it. It was just, now it's a fight, like... Yeah, I guess with budget wise and everything, I guess I'd have to be honest. I'd probably place it at number two.
Number 2.
I'll at
Okay.
least give it above Doctor No, just because like you got the budget, you got the more mature like cast writing, and you did it very well. Like obviously, it made more money than any other of the movies. So yeah, like I'll be honest with it.
Barry?
Uh, I feel the same about Doctor No. Love it. Um, I think that I actually enjoy. I don't know that it's a better movie, but I enjoy Thunderball more than Goldfinger. So I'm saying Thunderball won.
Justin?
Okay.
Interesting. I am not. I can't.
You can't do it.
I can't do it. Goldfinger's still. Goldfinger's number one for me.
Even with your number one girl in the movie.
Yeah, even Domino's number one girl for me, but Goldfinger's the number one movie. But yeah, Thunderball's number two.
So let me say this, see if you agree with this, Justin. Domino is better looking than Pussy Galore, but Pussy Galore is a better character.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
like she's more fleshed out as a person. We like know things about her. She does things. Domino's more of like a damsel in distress. She's just kind of there and like used as a pawn in the whole game.
Yeah, and I like
Strangely okay
Domino's.
with that.
I like Domino's backstory as a revenge for her brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that part of
Yes.
her story. And even though I would have rather Bond finished Largo off, I still like the Domino got revenge for her brother. I did like that part of her.
Fair enough. Ray?
I have to put Thunderball at 4.
Holy shit.
Blow to you, Holtz. Like,
Well, I'm putting Thunderball at number 1. I don't think that's a surprise to
I was
anybody.
gonna say that's what I mean. That's why I said it.
Really?
Like,
We have
Four.
2
I want-
1s,
no, I want-
2 2s, and a 4.
I want to
Yep.
hear it. All right.
All right, so Goldfinger is the best one so far.
Okay.
Dr. No set it off.
And that's where I'm with you.
From Russia with Love was really gritty, really dark. That's my kind of thing. They kept it grounded, detective wise. So I got to put that at 3 because it's not as good as the other 2. But I also think Russia with Love is better than Thunderball. But
See,
that's splitting hairs because they're pretty close similarity. But I got to take Russia over Thunderball.
I just asked you before we started recording, Ray, if you were going to do something
No,
stupid.
no,
and you
I-
said no. You said no.
I can definitely. I see the
That
argument.
was a great explanation.
No, because I see the
Yeah.
argument because I was torn the same way where like I was gonna put Doctor No and everything above it, and then it was like, well, like what's the battle here to where yeah, it's like it was the argument between From Russia with Love or Thunderball and all that, but yeah, no, I get where you're coming from on it.
I actually saw a list earlier today that said From Russia with Love was the best Bond movie of all time.
Ooh.
I bet there's a lot of people that feel that way.
Yeah.
So we have 2 number 1s, 2 number 2s, and a 4. So where do we go from here?
Well, we would add all those numbers together and then divide by 5, right?
Math. Like,
So that would probably lead us to a 2.5.
So we're gonna have to settle. We're gonna have to figure out it's somewhere in that 2-3 range. We're gonna have to come to an agreement, right?
Ooh.
I mean, we have to come to some sort of consensus. Yes, I mean, like obviously we can't just leave it like this.
it's definitely gotta be a whole number. We're not going 0.5. Like,
Well, here's what I'm willing to say then, is because I think Thunderball maybe just has been the most enjoyable one as much as I love Doctor No. But I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to go for the sake of settling it. Goldfinger, Doctor No, Thunderball, and then Russia.
so that's
That's my.
It's more or less what I was reading.
No way. We can't. You can't go from number 1 to number 3. What the fuck just happened?
I-
I'm working. Hey,
It sounds like Ray's argument turned
Ray
him.
had a good argument.
Oh my God!
Ray's argument's dog shit.
It's-
All he said was one movie was grittier than the other. That's all he said.
So it took a whole nother podcast for my argument to work.
Well,
I can't believe
Yeah,
it.
all I
No.
said was one's more fun than the other.
No, all he said was Goldfinger's number 1. He didn't. There's no explanation. That's not an explanation. That's just him saying something's number 1. Then he said. Then Dr. No started it off again. Not an explanation. All he did was state something. It was the first movie.
But I
Then he.
related that. That's why I. That's in
And
part
then
why
he said From Russia with Love was gritty, and I liked that. There's not a single explanation there. There's not a single explanation to that whole argument, and we're talking about how great of an explanation it was.
It wasn't. It was a
I
reasonably
think
good
this just means you
explanation.
can prove it at a point and make an argument for your movie, Holtz.
Yeah.
Tom
All I got to say is it's number 1. It's the same argument he
somewhat
fucking made.
swayed by it as well. Like, I'm not saying it was a dissertation, but it made sense.
Well, but even what you just ranked and all that was very close to what I was going to do as well. Like I said,
Yeah.
Dr. No really was. I was teetering on keeping that, and I do think Thunderball beat out From Russia with Love, but once again, I just.
I can
yeah.
live with Thunderball being at this point anywhere between number 1 and 3,
I can go with a 3 with you.
and that's not a slight to it.
Yes, it is. You just went from 1 to 3. That's a total slight.
Big jump.
You just said it was the greatest Bond movie of all time to saying, well, now there's a couple movies better than it.
Out of 4 movies,
I've seen
yeah,
4, and I'm trying to come to a consensus here.
that's still only 25%, Holtz. Like, it's just-
I thought the better consensus was Ray's vote doesn't fucking count because it's stupid, and the rest of us have either 1 or 2, so he can't go any lower than 2.
Oh my God! Wow, it's getting wild. Holy shit!
It's like a 60s housewife. You don't get a vote. Like,
I guess it would have made more sense had I agreed to move Dr. No to 3 and put Thunderball in at 2.
That would, and then you guys.
But I don't want to move Dr. No out of a higher position. That's what that boils down to.
Hold on now. You get Doctor No's at 3 already.
Huh?
Doctor No's already at
Not
3.
in my book.
But on our book as a whole, it is.
Barry's like up here. Like, it's like-
Because Goldfinger's 1, so if you put Thunderball
but I still have
at
to
either
give-
1 or 2, Doctor No's 3 either way.
Right, but I'm caving on my position that it was 1 based on Ray's disagreement, and I'm saying I can settle for it as low as 3.
No, I know, but you said I should have dropped it to number 2.
Because
Yeah.
I'm not willing to cave on Dr. No at this point. I'm not willing to move it lower.
Because
It doesn't make a ton of sense if I think about it, because No was already at 3. So
Yeah.
fine. I'll go with Thunderball as low as 2.
So Thunderball's 2, so now we have 3 people at 2, so Ray and I are outvoted.
All right, well that worked out. Yeah.
technically yes.
So there we go.
All right.
So, see, Ray, good job, man.
Yeah, you're welcome, guys.
So Thunderball's at 2. All right. Well,
That
anyway,
was good.
I feel like it's just gonna get more heated as it goes along.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Like because
So,
I know the next one. I really enjoyed the next one.
no, here's my thing is I think we're gonna reach a point where we don't care. Some of these movies we're gonna be like, who cares? Like this,
26.
like there's gonna be like a few of them that completely suck, and we're gonna be like they're at the end somewhere. And then, but there's gonna be so many movies that we rank similarly because we're watching probably 4 of the top 5 or 6 Bond movies ever, all right back to back to back to back. These first 4 movies are considered all-time greats.
Yeah.
So like, but we're gonna come out of this relatively quickly. The next movie is another good, very good movie, but then we're going to Lazenby's movie, you know, and then we go into Roger Moore full
I'm
time.
gonna try to
Still
find
never seen
redeeming.
it,
I'm gonna
so I
try
don't
to
know.
find redeeming qualities. Yeah, you don't.
I am too. I'm not going into it with a bad attitude. I told you earlier today. I think Lazenby's movie can be better than we give it credit for, you know. But like I don't want to say it's Goldfinger, you know. Like
Well, I think
but
for all of us, because some of these I haven't seen coming up, so we're almost looking at it like through the eyes of Barry, to where there is no nostalgia anymore.
hmm
Like, and that's where I'm kind of like excited about. To where like, all right, like can I go into it with that same kind of like enthusiasm and everything and whatnot? Like,
No, the ones that are going to be hard for me to be enthusiastic about there's a couple Roger Moore movies where I can't stand them. And I'm gonna try and go into them with like this attitude of like, don't go into it with a bad attitude. You need to watch it and see if it's better than the last when you watched it when you were a kid. But like, there's a couple Roger Moore movies where I'm like, man, these movies suck.
Watch it with your kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Roger Moore, Timothy
I can't do that,
Dalton,
Barry.
One of the Timothy Dalton.
No.
Yeah, one of the Timothy Daltons
Blasphemy.
is very good.
I haven't seen. There's one of the Timothy.
Oh, you
Daltons
haven't
I
seen it? Okay.
seen.
No, they're both good. You'll enjoy them.
Well, I can't. I think it's the first Timothy Dalton movie
License
is
to Kill.
License to Kill is a really
I
good
like
movie.
License to Kill.
License to Kill is a good movie. The second one's
But once
but there's also a
I-
couple Pierce Brosnan movies where I'm just like, yeah, this movie's not very
Pierce
good.
Brosnan only did one good one, and that was Goldeneye.
Goldeneye. What was it, A Day to Kill? And he was
Living
just-
Daylights.
I don't know.
or yeah, there's another one that's all right.
Is that,
Brosnan
is
did,
that Timothy
Tomorrow
Dalton's
Never
other one?
Dies.
Yeah, Tomorrow Never Dies.
and
Yeah,
The World Is Not Enough.
What is that? Yeah.
And Die Another Day, which I've heard is
Yeah.
dog crap.
yeah.
That was. I think I only liked that one because Halle Berry was in it and she looked really good.
Yeah, well, that's reason enough to watch.
Anyway, we're meandering. I'm going to close this up and we can talk off air. Well, we appreciate you tuning in for this Thunderball episode, and we would appreciate you tuning in next week for our
Two.
Yep. It's
Yeah.
what's it? It's only live twice.
You only live twice.
Yeah, you only live
Yeah.
twice.
Yeah, live twice.
I'm aiming for it.
And thanks
It'll be-
for listening to Blockbuster Bums.